Welcome back to the Spread Show. Today I'm very excited because I have here with me one guest that started working at the age of 13, as he says, with his dad. He worked for many, many years in the banking industry here in the UAE, here in Dubai, and he shifted his career to pursue his entrepreneurship side. And from there, he was able to launch, scale to 5 different countries, to more than 25 units, and he sold the company to a giant in the industry here of food and beverage, Kitop. So please welcome Mahmoud Bartawi, right?
Yes, you said
How was
correct.
the pronunciation of your name?
Mahmoud Bartawi.
Yeah, yeah.
So you did well. Good job.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, for me it's a bit hard, before I came here, like the alphabet is a little
the
bit
Arabic
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me. Really, I think it's great to meet you. I know we spoke earlier, and I saw a few of the things that you guys are doing, and I wanted to support and also share with you anything I could that could be of value for your viewers and for yourself, and maybe tell you a little bit about myself, some of my experiences. And then, of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to dive in. Any kind of question about business, let's get, ask it raw.
Yeah, good, good. I'm
Yeah.
happy. I'm happy. The entire point of this conversation, I always tell the audience that is to solve the questions that the audience have, that I have, that maybe even yourself had before, right? To kind of just share a little bit of this knowledge that it's way better when we share with other people, right? Just for us to start and just for the audience to really understand, like I tried to give this brief introduction, but I'm sure like there is a lot more for us to talk. I just wanted to ask you,
Sure.
how would you define yourself? Like, who is Mahmoud in a very brief way in this professional career, but also, you as a human being, not just the professional side?
Right. So my name is Mahmoud Bartawi. I'm from a city called Dubai. I grew up, Sheikh Zayed Road was 2 lanes, and now it's 9 lanes on each side or more. And I saw a digital transformation. Also, I saw a real estate transformation, and I think for me as a kid growing up here, I heard about things and then I would see them happen. So you kind of see this and think anything is possible. And I think with the leadership of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, our leader, with that kind of mindset, I think it kind of, you see things change, so you believe change can happen, and then you are accepting of being on the forefront of change. So I think that's very important. So for me, I grew up in Dubai most of my life. I spent, I lived a year in the States. I came back. I did high school there one year, and I came back. I went to an Arabic school. Well, it's called Dubai National School. It was a school here. Met a lot of Emirati friends. I had expatriate friends out of school, and I grew up. Most of my friends were mostly expatriate. I told you I had the friends in school, and I thought always, I always had that feeling that my father actually. It was a really sad story. My father, he died in 2010. He left behind, he left behind. He was my hero when I was growing up. I was 13 years old. I used to go to him, and he said, "Why don't you come in the summer and work in my company?" So I thought, I wanted to be like him, and I looked up to him, and I said, "Yes, I'll come to your company." And then he would take me and my brothers. So every summer, I would go work in his company in a different department with different people, and I speak Urdu, which is also you got a big majority of the population here. They speak that language, so I speak Arabic, English, and Urdu.
Nice.
Yeah, I spent time building stuff at his company, and then when it came time to university, I went to my dad and said, "Baba, get me a car," and he said, "Why don't you work for it?" And I said, "Give me a job." And he said, "I'm not going to give you a job. Find someone that is going to pay you for something that you're going to give them." So I said, "Okay." So I went to HSBC and checked, and they said, we have a corporate call center. You can pick up the phone. So I thought, amazing. So all through my university, I was doing part-time jobs so I could afford my car and pocket money that I needed for spending. And I kind of got used to that. The summer jobs I was doing as a child kind of got me programmed to work for what I have. And then in university, I did part-time jobs. I studied at the American University of Sharjah. So my dad paid my university. He just said, when it comes to pocket money, you need to earn your money. So that kind of mindset I had, throughout university, and I had a nice time at university. It was great, many experiences. And when I finished university, I thought about all the jobs that I had before as intern or paid, and I thought, what could I do? What did I really enjoy? And what I enjoyed at the time was the time I spent at HSBC as a corporate call center agent. And I thought, how do I take that knowledge and basically, what can I do with it? So I joined the National Bank of Dubai's training program. It was a program, it's for a year and a half. They take you to different departments of the bank. And then I chose to go into corporate banking, which is what I always wanted to do. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and I had studied business, and I thought the way I could get access to successful people was to be in a corporate bank, and National Bank of Dubai was the biggest bank at the time. So I thought it would do it for me. And I was doing my corporate job, and I always was doing my corporate job, and I thought, how can I jump to entrepreneurship? And while I was thinking that, my dad died.
Okay.
When my dad died in 2010, it was really a sad point in my life, but it made me realize that I have to take the next step and become an entrepreneur.
Was that moment that kind of made you change?
Yeah, that was the moment. That was the moment that said, you can die. Like it kind of was a reality check to someone like me who was not thinking about the end.
Yeah. It kind of like brought some, it's a situation that of course we cannot control, right? And we need to kind of, in these times, usually big changes happen in our life, right? Not just because someone kind of left, but also how we're going to adjust, right? So, because I just wanted to go one step back. You were mentioning that it seemed that you actually didn't choose the banking because you wanted to work in a bank, right? It was more because maybe that would be the way that you would be able to access these people that eventually maybe would help you to create your business or actually to...
And to understand business, a big part of it. So why I took the corporate job at the bank was because it was a great training program, and because I thought if I got to the corporate bank, I would know how real business is done.
And did you learn?
I learned. I was in I was in the corporate department, the large corporates. I would see all the mega deals happening. So I would know before my friends, because if you look at the flow of money, you would know how projects, the project will get approved in the bank. You would know about it before it comes out, even sometimes in the newspaper.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting for me. I had that, a feeling that I wanted to know things before everyone else, and it was exciting for me to sit with someone that was super rich and to see how they operate. How do they behave with other people?
Yeah, one thing that comes to my mind is that a lot of people, especially now that are like hustling and kind of pursuing their entrepreneurial journey, they are very against, let's say, the 9 to 5, right? If you just see social media, everyone will drop 9 to 5 and so on.
Yeah.
But from your experience, how do you think that the 9 to 5 helped you to actually then move to your entrepreneurial journey and succeed on this?
That's a really great question. I think the 9 to 5 gives you time management. Now, unfortunately, as human beings, for us, especially at a younger age, it's very hard to manage your own time. So if you don't know how to maximize the value on your time, then you basically go find a manager in a bank, or it could be any kind of business where they kind of outsource your time and give you a part of what you actually produce. If you can't do that process and hire other people, then you go into a system. So at a younger age, I wanted to understand the system. I didn't know how the system worked. I wanted to understand the system, and I wanted to access smart people that, and to me, I thought entrepreneurship was not about money, but if you were smart and you gave the market a product they wanted, as a result, they would pay you. So when I sit with someone who has made it, I realized that his advice might be closer to the truth than someone else who didn't make the money, because it's simply just the market hasn't paid him for something.
Yeah. And I mean, when kind of, we talked with another guest last week, and we were talking about, let's say, that money is not everything, especially in business, but is the kind of truth. It shows that, yes, I'm actually adding value in someone else's life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, like, very interesting, because you're basically saying that when you were in the 9 to 5, it taught you mainly these time skills, this the time management, right?
Time
Which is something
management.
that is very important to anyone, especially entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, but today you got all these productivity tools.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I didn't have productivity tools. I
Yeah.
had to learn how to use Excel and then to do everything in the way that I could be more productive than my person next to me so I could get the highest bonus.
Yeah.
Or, I always focused on, how do I be efficient? Today, you're in 2024, you can go online and you'll find people promoting content that shows you the top 10 tools.
Yeah. It's way easier.
I think another shift that has happened when I was going to, when I finished university, nobody was talking about entrepreneurship. It was kind of like, why don't you just get a job? And
Yeah.
everyone was thinking to get a job. And I'm talking about 15 years ago. Today, if you ask someone in school, they'll tell you, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. But why do you think is that?
I think that, if I was to answer that question, I would say it's the idea of rebelling and thinking. I would say a big part of it is a misconception that entrepreneurs do nothing and just do what they like and have fun. So I know this because I've been to incubators. So an incubator. So imagine that you have a university where you go to and you pay money to study. And then you have on the other end of the scale a VC, a venture capital. A venture capital basically is, if you go back to the time of, Queen Victoria, two guys would come up to her and say, I know that there is a treasure on the other side of the ocean. Give me a ship and money and some food to take to feed people, and I'll take them with me. And if I come back with the treasure chest, then we split it. And the queen would say, hey, you know what? Fine. And she would think, I'll send 10 ships out. If one guy comes back, I'll make all I lost 10 ships plus much more. They discovered many great continents this way. So,
Actually, very interesting. Very interesting, actually. It's a very similar idea to the VCs and how they operate, right?
yeah. So a venture capital is looking for someone where there's no more education and now there's money to go into. So you're at the other end. There's a university where you pay to get education, and there's a venture capital where you have the education, you're going to get paid to fund your startup.
Yeah.
In between, you have something called an incubator, accelerator, which are just different ways to, it's kind of like mentorship.
Yeah.
So when I go to the mentorship programs, I've been to a few, I noticed that a lot of people, they get rejected at the door because they came with the wrong idea. They think, for example, doing a startup means that you're gonna only do it part-time. And then they don't get accepted into the incubator, and this is like 90%. Then there's another 9% that don't get accepted for whatever idea, and there's 1% that gets funded.
Yeah.
And then they move to the next
Then
stage,
they
which is
move.
the VC.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to ask you, and it's good that you touched upon these kind of topics of investment and these VCs. One thing that maybe I think it's very interesting for us to dive is, what is one thing that you see that investors are looking in startups or in new companies that sometimes the founders or the startup, they're not actually acknowledging that, and then they miss the point?
So I think that's a great question. When I sit with an investor, the investor has always must have sat with someone like me, right? And I could be, someone who's 18, who's 19. I could be in university. The truth is, I've been pitching my entire time, one way or another. So if you're, sitting with an investor and your investor is more knowledgeable than you, so that then makes it to a point where he becomes an advisor, and there's not enough. You haven't got to the point where the only thing missing is money. When you get to that point where you've taken everyone's advice, you get to the final stage where you have a running product and there's sales coming in, then you can, then you need more money to grow, to expand the market, to do more marketing, to develop your product more because you have feedback. Once you get to that stage, then the investor usually puts the money. It's like a cow and chicken kind of theory. It's a game of, it's almost like you get the money when you don't want it.
Yeah.
I know it sounds, it's a game. So if you think you have that, if you're one of those people that someone told you, they gave you a promise that they might invest, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Usually when you get the investment, it's like you're talking to someone and you have someone else that's trying to get the money, and you're trying to decide between the both.
Yeah.
If you don't get to that position, you're not going to get the money.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of my experience with,
Yeah.
you still need to learn to get into that position. Life is about position. If you're playing, I don't play cards, but I hear about a game called poker.
Yeah.
And, where you're sitting, if you're sitting in the dealer spot and the guy has a hand behind you, if he plays before you, you're in position. You're in a much better position. Before each hand, you look at your position. And life is about positioning. It's about positioning your business, positioning your investment thesis, positioning your deck, positioning your financial model, because all of these things are future paced. When you talk about an idea, it's not going to be, it's going to be something in the future. If you can't tell that story, and I think in every group, if you look at Steve Jobs, he was a great storyteller. He was a customer service guy that understood about product, and he told really good stories about the future that people believed. The company only made money many years later. If you look at Amazon, non-profitable for 10 plus years, just growing, but growing with an amazing story, right? More users. So in every group, you have a storyteller and you have a builder. And I think if you have, when you look at the really successful models, and if you look at the US, the top 100 companies in the S&P 500, you'd find only 4% of those founders are single founders. Most of them are groups. And when you look at the group, usually the ones that succeed are the ones where you have a really good seller and you have a really good builder. So you have Steve Jobs and Wozniak, who was really good at developing and building stuff. Steve Jobs was good at, identifying what the customer wants and then translating that into, he was good at motivating people.
Yeah.
You do have groups of two. I think that, you have, I think, in the end of the day, having a co-founder is a requirement because it kind of shows that you're humble enough to accept that you're one of those guys. Does that make sense?
Like 100%.
Like imagine you're an investor and you have two people with good ideas. One of them is a group of three people and the other one's one person. What does it tell you about that?
You have 24 hours or have 72 here.
Right?
Right. Yeah, and it's because I feel that, when you have this kind of, the world nowadays kind of multidisciplinary, right? We have a lot of different kind of perspective in one challenge. If you have just one, we have just this part, this vision.
It's going to be very tough.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to dive, actually, it's very interesting that we're touching upon, for example, Steve Jobs and the example of Apple. You have one guy that was very good at the product, the other one that was very good at sales. Right. And one thing that I would say that maybe it's a big question for entrepreneurs is, should I focus on building my product first, or should I focus on trying to sell maybe a very basic version of my product? What do you think?
You really want to know this one answer that's really going to change the way you think about it?
Yeah.
It's going to be an answer that's going to answer. A startup usually goes through the same stuff. So your question is, should I build demand, which is the supply, or should I focus on demand, which is, do customers even want this product? So my answer to you is, it's linear. The first thing you need to do is to build an idea about what if it's a website about your product and you get some interest and people write to your website, yes, I want to buy it. What if it's a Tesla Cybertruck and people put down $100 just to book it? So how do you create that demand? I think if you're you don't need to sell. You always sell the beta version. You always sell the first MVP. And if you're already there, then there's nothing in it for the investor. You need to be limping with something. So the linear way to do it is you look at the demand. So say you put out a post and you say, I'm looking for 10 people who are looking to improve their personal branding, and I'll charge $5,000 to $10,000 a month. I'll take care of your LinkedIn, your Twitter, right? And you want to pick up 10 clients. And you think about, how do I pick up 10 clients? And that's your MVP, your minimum viable product, is how do I get that demand? So you put a message out there and you work on your message, whether that message needs a website behind it. You get that demand, and then you look at supply. Where do I find my editors? Now, it helps if your co-founder is an editor. It helps if you already have those things. It's in your network. It's something you do. But why would you invest into something when you don't have the demand? And you could get the demand on a website that you pay Google ads that will actually bring that demand to you. So organically, you don't even need to have any super SEO website. You could gauge demand on, a poll.
Yeah.
If someone, you think about that, and how do I get 10 people? And out of 10, what's the lifetime value? So you got 10 people, 3 signed up to pay you on the first month, right? You made that little video or whatever it is you needed to give it to them to be able to be interested to sign with you. Now they sign with you. And you're thinking, what is my lifetime value? So a business, if you want to calculate what a business is, it's basically the customer acquisition cost versus the lifetime value. Say we're talking now about a content writing agency, right? You get 3 content writers. Each one is, you have customers that, they subscribe. You have 3 customers, and then you have maybe one co-founder or content writer that does the work. And you're selling the company, you're on the sales side. You think about how many months do these customers stay with me? If they drop off in the 6th month and it took you $100 to get a customer, so the value of that one customer is, now you add to it the growth of the company. If the first month you have 3, and the next month you have 6, and the next month you have 12, you're growing double month on month. Now you have a trajectory. Yes, there is a point where it's going to slow down, but investors like to get in there. Where the product is a little shaky, the money is going to go into a product. I want to tell you about a very interesting book I read. It's by Peter Thiel, the guy who did PayPal. Him and Elon Musk were, co-founders, along with some other people. And PayPal was the first kind of, why can't we send money using an email? But that was very innovative at the time. It sounds simple today, but Elon Musk cashed out, and then, that was the beginning. And the LinkedIn guy also was in the same group. So I read a book by Peter Thiel, and he's talking about there's only 2 kinds of companies. You have a tech company where the money goes into the product, like Tesla. You don't hear ads everywhere about Tesla. You hear people saying, my Tesla is so smooth. I don't have to go to the gas station. It's the product. The money is in the product. So tech investors are looking to invest in technology. Salaries for people. I have a team. So you need a seller and a co-founder or a couple or a group that build. And usually the investor wants to invest in the team to build products. And that product needs to be in a minimum viable product mode, which means there are a few users that use it and it's generating a little income. It needs money to grow a little bit the product. You need to develop the product. You don't have the bandwidth. That's when a tech investor comes in. Now, if you're looking at everything else, so you're talking about a podcast studio, you're talking about a building. Say, I'll talk about, real estate because it's a popular thing in Dubai. You look at a building, you say, okay, it's worth, an apartment is worth 1 million for sake of argument. If I rent it out, it will get me 100,000 a year. I'll buy that property for 1 million. I would think, okay, the industry average is 10 years, which means if I buy it for 1 million, I'll get my money back in 10 years. And then whatever is extra is I'm free rolling. But the reason I buy that building is because I think I can market it better. I think I can take that building and do something to it, maybe add, a partition, maybe repaint it, maybe whatever it is, that apartment, and sell and rent it out for 120,000 a year. Or number 2, I'm thinking that the rent this year is 100, but next year it will be 100, 120, 110. So if I get my money back, if the industry average takes 10 years to get the money back and I get my money back in 6 years, that's marketing. Because the product there's no innovation in the product.
Yeah.
It's innovation in the way I've marketed it to a new buyer.
Yeah.
So if you talk about the restaurant business, say in the restaurant business, it's 5 years, people that put their money in want their money back in 5 years. What if you get into the restaurant business and you think, I have a really cool marketing tool. I'm going to get my money back in 3 years. I'm going to do multiple brands. I'm going to, market it in a better way. And sales and marketing go really well together. They are kind of in the same thing. If you're a good seller, you'd understand. And if you're a good marketer, you'd understand that you need to sell for the marketing to work. So sales and marketing, I think, everything else except tech. The focus of every business that's non-tech is actually sales and marketing. Yeah. Because the operations get streamlined. Yeah. At some point. Yeah. It's about so it goes back to automation that will automate everything except the content writer. Yeah. the guy with the idea,
the real
and
gold of the thing and the unique aspect, let's say.
the human.
The human element.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I mean, that's very cool and good that you also mentioned about the food industry, because I wanted for us to dive a little bit about your big unicorn, let's say, under 500, right? You were just saying about marketing and product, and under 500, I think, I mean, was more on the market side, right? On the food side.
Exactly.
So one thing that I just wanted to ask you, so you came from the bank field, right? So
Yeah.
you were working in the bank area for like how many years? 10?
Well, I was doing it for 6 years until I did my entrepreneurial on
Yeah.
the side.
Yeah. So why the food and beverage industry? What was the thing that, okay, I want to go for this area, this niche?
Why? The why was because, so I said that, it was a very sad time in my life. My father had passed away, and I realized that I needed to do something different. And I thought about, at the time, we didn't have big exposure here to tech companies.
Mhm.
We heard about it, but there was no real tech action happening. That I was, there was soup.com, but it was still fairly new. So the businesses to get into at the time was like, I was thinking like a barber shop
Okay.
or a restaurant. But the thing is, I was in the gym and I was going through a healthy lifestyle, and I was actually looking for food, healthy food. And then at the time, I went to Subway, I went to another place. I asked them, can I franchise your location? Can I just give me a thing that works? So I actually went online. I was in the bank. I looked up businesses to start. I saw a restaurant business. I put, what's the percentage that I'll fail online? And it told me 88% of restaurants fail in the first 2 years. So I was like, okay, so if I franchise, I would mitigate that risk, because at least my procedures would be according to someone that's done it, right?
Yeah.
So I went looking for a franchisee, and then I got rejected the first time. The second time I said, give me the Subway. They said, no, you have no experience. You've never done this before. How can we give it to you? And then you close down the shop because you don't follow. So that actually fueled my journey. I thought, okay, what if I franchised a non-healthy food brand, ran it for a year, gave it back to the franchisor, and that way I would understand how to run a restaurant without actually taking such a big risk. I wouldn't make money. So that's exactly what I did. I found a few concepts. A non-healthy food brand called German Doner Kebab accepted to give me a location, for me to be their first franchisee, actually.
Oh.
And I actually did their brand. I ran it for a year. I realized I didn't want to do non-healthy once I understood how it works. And I gave it back to the franchisor for the break-even price that I came in with. And then I set out to actually do my own brand, because now I even had a little experience on franchising. So I thought, as a banker, I wouldn't be able to fund my business. But what if I did a prototype of the first branch and then took my money out and sold it to an investor and owned the franchisor rights? And I was the one that could franchise this cool concept all over the world.
Wow. So since the beginning, you created thinking about all of this, let's say the 5-10 years and what would come after, right?
Right, because I was thinking, how could I sell a brand? So I was looking, as a banker, I was looking at data, and I saw that healthy food was on trend. So I knew that healthy food was on trend. It was growing faster compared to non-healthy. And I knew I was one of those people that was on the healthy journey. But everyone I was asking, like my friends, they all didn't eat healthy food and are not part of the target market. And they would say, don't do it. How can you do a brand? How can you call your brand a name with a number? So, that's an interesting story. I actually, while I was doing the project in the first few months, I went to a branding guy, and he really liked the idea. We worked on it together, and he decided to be my co-founder later. And we basically discussed a name that would be timeless. So we wanted a name that would last in every country and be timeless. So we thought, what if we did a name that was tied to something scientific? So we thought, we learned online that if you put your BMR online, so that's your base metabolic rate, you put a BMR calculator, and you input your height, your weight, your gender, and how much you exercise, it will tell you how much calories you need to eat every day to maintain your actual weight. So the average human BMR is 1,800 calories a day. That means that if I was to stay in this shape, it would be 1,800 calories. And we thought if it's 1,800 a day, and we created a brand and called it Under 500, then 3 meals a day of 500, 500, 500 would get the person hooked on the brand that they would keep coming back, and that would be a business, because a business is a recurring customer coming back. So how do you get him coming back? What if we branded it healthy? Now, we had a lot of friends and family that said, save your money and don't put your money in. But we were like, he was also getting into healthy, and he was more into food. I was more into the finance and the operational side of it. Like, how do we put this thing together? So we launched. We had a really bad location the first time, because no one that has a building will let you do a brand in a prime location. Like, if you go to Dubai Mall and you ask them, give me a location, they'll tell you, where is your existing location? And when you tell him you don't have anything except a website, he's not buying it. So, back then, we took the back of a building, and because we were in the back of the building, Deliveroo and Uber Eats, they had delivery platforms. So we continued to deliver from our locations. So what happened was, the biggest challenge we had was, we launched a restaurant in the back of a building, and we had 55 menu items, but only 30 could deliver well. So you had eggs, like, they would be jumbled up. We couldn't deliver those. So we had to cut down our menu from 50 to 33 items just to be able to get them delivered. So that pain point, it made us pivot our brand to more of a delivery brand, because people couldn't access our shop. And because we were on Deliveroo and Uber, we started spending our budget on marketing on the platforms. So we became the fourth most used brand, even though we were a healthy brand. Everyone else, on Uber, we were number 4. On Deliveroo, we had at some point 50% of our sales done through them.
Wow. Oh yeah, and so just one step back here, so that we all understand. So you're saying that, like, you wanted to find how to start the restaurant, right? And you got your experience from the German doner kebab, right? And then you're like, okay, now let's move on to this health option. And then you got this location.
Right.
But what I saw that at least after the franchise, was more like a clown kitchen style, right?
Yes. So we started franchising in the beginning. We started with physical units in Dubai. We did 2, and then we had 3rd, and then the 4th was under construction, and we had signed a 20-unit master franchise in Saudi.
Wow.
So we were, we thought we were doing really well, and then we went to different exhibitions all over the world, standing, this is our presentation for our franchise. Do you want to franchise in your country? You can use the name under 500. We'll give you all the dishes we have, and you can edit 30% of the dishes to localize the menu, but it needs to be under 500 calories. It's the only condition. And we give them branding manual and, SOPs, marketing plan. So we were at London, and we actually signed the franchisee to take our brand, and then we realized that in the UK, they had a rule that you needed to own the unit as a company headquarters, so that the person taking the franchise from you can get it financed by a bank.
Oh, okay.
So in the UK, people buy things financed on bank. They'll put 50% cash, 50% on the bank, but the bank has a condition that the owner needs to. So we were then stuck thinking, me and my partner were thinking, we don't know lawyers in the UK. We don't really know how to operate a business. How does it work? So the innovation here came actually from a company called Kitopi Kitchens.
Yeah.
And they came and said, what if we built you dark kitchens all over the world, and that way you could just give us your recipes and we would cook it for you at the kitchen and you could deliver. So imagine you're at this, would that solve the problem? And to me as an entrepreneur, I did my master's in international business when I finished my bachelor's, and my dream was to have a company, that was going to reach 5 countries, and, I'd be able to sell it one day. So for me, that was, it sounded like it aligned with our plan.
Yeah.
We met someone that was going to do dark kitchens all over the world. All they wanted was us to work with them, and we'd do a deal. And then, I knew, and I had a feeling, that when you say you start with the end in mind, I knew that was someone that was going to buy us out at the end.
And in the end, it was actually
someone that bought, because if you're working with someone that can deploy capital and grow your company with you, then they'd probably be someone that's looking to buy you out at some point. Also.
Yeah.
Become your partner, right?
Yeah. I mean, very interesting. But just one thing that comes to my mind now. So you guys started,
right,
and then got this unit, and then how Kitop arrived? Like, how did they join this?
Right.
Thing?
So in the beginning, it was when we started with Kitopi, we had a lot of resistance, because we had 3 branches in Dubai running and the 4th under construction, and this company comes and says, give us your recipes, we will cook for you.
What do you mean?
What do you mean, give me your recipe? Like that's a crazy idea. And it worked that, it actually happened that my chef decided to leave because I agreed to give the recipes
Wow.
to start. And he came back later in 2 months.
Oh,
He saw,
okay.
when he saw that, we were flying to another country to launch. So, we went to Kitopi Kitchens, and, they actually had the hard time. They convinced us, they showed us that they were using technology. They showed us they had better equipment. They actually launched their unit in the Silicon Oasis and told us, we'll show you a prototype. And I think it showed us that they were actually, were serious about doing the project. We had a kitchen in 3 months after discussing with them, maybe even
Wow.
less. That's actually that we were selling from. And we thought amazing. And then they said, okay, you want to help us develop this in Kuwait and Saudi. And we had trouble in Saudi with our franchisee because they weren't developing in time.
Mm.
So when we saw the dark kitchens developing one in 3 months and all our business is delivery, why should we go for a full branch where the guy is taking a year just to build?
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. So it was a no-brainer for us to kind of go with the dark kitchen model. So we have physical kitchens in Iraq, but most of our most of the business of under 500 now is on delivery. And we've also created multiple brands. So you have gym food and few other brands also that were created from the same kitchen. So you have a chef in the kitchen, you have 2 bags, either the order goes into a gym food or an under 500, but it's kind of like optimizing on space using technology. So working with Kitopi was definitely a great experience. I think scaling a business to multiple countries really it hit the thing that I was at the time I felt it helped me it helped me achieve the things that made me, that gave me, I woke up every day really, really, really much more excited and motivated than I was when I was at the bank.
That's what it kind of gave the reason for everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. One thing that I just wanted to dive is because we see, like we're just talking a little bit before about, let's say, one founder and then 3 co-founders, right? And then we can see now how you join with a co-founder, then Kitopi, because of course, without Kitopi, it would not be what it is in the end, right? Because like when we combine, we're kind of creating more than we can actually do with just 2 people, right? That's just natural, especially if we're adding value to each other. What I just wanted to ask you is because I think a pain that a lot of entrepreneurs have, or like just leaders, is how to actually manage the people that you are working with, right? And one thing that is very interesting that like I always talk with my friends that, in some cases, we see a lot of work environments that are very toxic, that are very challenging, but not in the right way, right? It's challenging in a way that it demotivates you. You actually do not build a safe place for you to share your ideas, to actually take some risk and get the results. So during this journey in under 500 and now even after, how do you think that like being the leader or kind of managing, how would you do that? What is, let's say, the number one thing that you think that helped you to manage the people and to lead in this process?
That's a great question. I think it's more about creating, it's about creating opportunity to attract the best talent. I think the idea of, you talk about a seller and a builder. Every company has a seller and a builder, and usually that seller is the person that's more a people person. And I think, if you're going to talk about university, go back to school days. In every school, you have personalities. When you grow up now, you see those people, they're the exact same personality that you knew in school. That doesn't change much. So you go back to your school time, and there's that one guy in class that's always trying to sell something. You have the other guy who's popular and he's more with people and more on, you can tell he'd be maybe a good customer service guy. He's a good kind of, he's cool. He understands what's trendy. You have another guy, he's too salesy. He's too much, but he has a sales thing. So you have another guy that's quiet in the back, but they're really good at building stuff. You see them, they sit with a Lego or with anything and they'll build as a child, And I think, it's personalities that do different things. If you're in the wrong place, so I think it's very important. You have these online personality tests that you should do for yourself, just to know who you are. So you have like the Mary-Briggs, which tells you have 16 personalities, and it'll tell you which one you are. Just to who you are, but it'll just label it for you. Once you buy that, you'll buy that there's other personalities on Earth that think different than you. So how do you put those together? If you're going to put 5 introverted people together with no seller, then you might have a problem. If you have usually a combination that works, even in 9 to 5, is you have like someone on the front who sells and you have someone on the back that builds. And these people are very obvious. Like I met once, I was a branch manager in a bank once, had this girl come in and I was looking actually for someone to manage the branch as an operations manager. And I was someone that liked to sell and I didn't want to lock the branch. And, I wanted the ops manager to take care of all the, inventory kind of things like, check the camera, lock the branch, and I was looking for someone like that. And I was interviewing people and the people that kept showing up saying, when I asked them, what do you like to do? 9 out of 10 people either weren't sure about what they like to do or they said, I do everything, which means you don't know who you are. This one girl walked in and she said, give me a computer, give me a chair and table. I don't want to meet any customers. And I promise you that I won't miss any task. I'll be the best operations manager there is, but just, I want to stay into this role. Don't give me a sales target. So when I saw her, I thought, bingo, at least you know what, you're my missing piece of my puzzle.
Yeah.
And she joined the bank, she worked amazing. I never heard from her because she was working in her office, but my operational problems all went away. So if you're on the sales side, your value is to at least find a good builder. If you can't do that, forget about partnering with other companies and doing a startup because you ain't going to do everything on yourself.
Yeah.
You're not. There 4% of the S&P companies have single founders.
Yeah.
And if you're that guy that thinks you could be an Elon Musk and you want to go for that, that's cool. But you got to really be genius. You have to really stand out to be able to do the whole thing by yourself. Maybe cash out a couple of companies by yourself. I think Elon Musk, even the first one, he had, help. He had co-founders. Even in Tesla, I don't think it's, it takes a long time to get to a point where it's one person that does everything. And so I would say, look at those builders and sellers around you and first find out who are you and how do you fit into it. You're looking for startup community. You can look at the Y Combinator, which is in the US. You have Denmark with a really good startup system. I think a lot of people, the hustle mentality, they need to pass by a startup and just to understand, what does it mean? Like there's one thing about dreaming and there's something else about creating a minimum viable product and actually getting to market. So the faster you realize that you need to get to market and that's your strategies to get 10 paying clients and you throw away all the other, 5-year plans, just put a 3-month plan. And that will be, I think, the most exciting time you'd spend because you'd crash and learn until you make it. Someone pays you. And money motivates you because you realize that you're giving value.
Yeah.
I'm not saying money is anything except the market's way of saying, hey, are you doing me a service? Here's a price.
Yeah, 100%. One thing that actually is interesting that you're saying, like we have all of these markets, right? US, Denmark, all of these, like Europe. And I mean, I've been here in Dubai for only 3 years. You've been here like your entire life. So how do you see that the Dubai environment is now for entrepreneurs, for the entrepreneurship, let's say, ecosystem?
You're in Dubai. That's a good sign.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
I think, at some point. So for me, it was a transformation. I actually went to something called the Sharjah Entrepreneurial Festival.
Yeah, like I've been there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And, to me, who grew up my whole life in Dubai, I was shocked because it's an entrepreneurial festival. I would imagine them to be all businessmen. But when you look at the lineup, I see all these content creators. So that's what got my attention. I thought, are these guys making money? Or is this, and then when I went to the actual exhibition, I saw 4 different stages. So one stage had like the Shark Tank guys and the other stage had mental health. It was 3 times the size of the Shark Tank stage and everyone there, pin drop silence, was listening to a story. And I realized mental health content creators that talk about those things that are not really just business. It's content. And they get paid just like a businessman. They do content, they sell their time, they're really good at what they do. And they know at least how to produce content. So there is a value. So I put myself in the shoes of the person organizing the event. You want to bring people. If you just bring businessmen that no one knows, you have to market the businessman and you need to pay him a lot. But if you get a content creator, he's going to do a really good job with the marketing.
Yeah.
You know, he wants exposure to be next to these people. And I think, you know, I saw the place, you saw it, it was full. I think they did a really good job, the management.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. Like I saw like they took that place that I mean is a very nice place. Like it's a hub, right, for technology and everything. But they kind of transformed in a way that was way more, let's say, it would invite you, right, to stay there, to hang out, to meet
You know,
people.
the person running it, Sheikh Lubna, she basically runs the American University of Sharjah,
Yeah.
and also, you know, all the Entrepreneurial Festival, and then there's the CEO Najd Al Midfa. She, you know, I think that they're very forward thinking. You know, they're really giving content creators that opportunity. And after that, when I went to that show, it kind of opened my eyes towards, you know, looking at models. So you asked what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually looking to do, I mean, this could be, you know, a way where I have a multipreneur kind of mindset, where I have, so I thought about the things I enjoy doing. I enjoy spending time with founders. I enjoy building things. So companies, you know, that are entrepreneurial, that have, you know, something different about them, founders, I like to surround myself with smart people. And I think the best way I could do it, where I could add my value, was basically to be, you know, to have a holding company where I would have different smaller companies under me and different CEOs. Each company would have a CEO, and that CEO would basically hire and be responsible for a revenue generating unit. So I'm not talking about anything else except a founder that has value, is providing value to the market, and now needs business sense, needs someone with them to take them to the next level. They might have one client, but you need to have something different about you. You need to have a drive. If you're still in the stage where you don't know if you should have a co-founder, you're probably paying too much because you're outsourcing everything.
Yeah.
If you're in the stage where you're 2-3 guys building something really cool, I think, you know, as a multipreneur, I could, you know, there's content, there's so many kinds of content. I think because everything in the end, like I said, comes down to sales and marketing, unless you're talking about technology.
Tech.
So how do you leverage that? How do you you know, how can I give a chance for younger people to have that, you know, mentorship and advice and funding to get to where they want to get to, you know, in this content age where everything is content. You know, I know that most people, their screen time is out of the, you know, it's, and I'm one of those people. So, you know, I try to keep it down. I try to live, you know, I believe in a very balanced lifestyle. You know, I try to keep things in check, health, everything else. And, you know, social media is definitely, you know, consuming. And I thought, why not be on the creator side?
Yeah.
Why not help young content creators, you know, you know, why don't I do what I love, which is working with smart people, help them create their companies, and then I have a holding company that has stake in those companies, and I'll provide mentorship and leadership and any business setup, you know, everything else that the founder needed help with to establish in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of like where I'm looking, you know, at the future, where I see the future going. I like technology companies. I think technology companies that, you know, build technology that's different. I like working with content creators at this point. So that's kind of like where I spend my time. I spend a lot of my time also discussing and working with B and C stage companies that want to come to Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's, you know, trying to get into the GCC market.
Yeah.
I think the GCC market's very interesting for companies that have made it somewhere else and they want to get their product across. I spend a lot of my time at, you know...
Dubai is a very good hub, right, to kind of kick off in this region.
Exactly, for the region. You said it.
Yeah.
GCC. And I thought, you know, with my experiences, cashing out a company and with my corporate experience, I could definitely add value to those companies. So I'm kind of doing a mix of things, trying to get, you know... let's see what the future holds. It's, I think, yeah.
But very cool, you know. I mean, especially for you that was like here in Dubai, like for your entire life. For me, that's been here for 3 years, I can see that everything, like a lot of things change in a very fast pace here. Things happen, right? So if you see, like even these events, now you have every weekend a different event, right? About entrepreneurship or about content creation, because actually, like you bring people from around the world, the best ones, and then you have a lot of people here to kind of get that knowledge, right? It's kind of building a ecosystem that everyone can add value to each other, build things as you're saying, and just kind of getting the money in the end. Not because, you know, the ultimate goal, but because they're adding value to other people and helping them.
Exactly.
Right.
If you're one of those people that, I think if you're one of those people that are looking to do something, I think Dubai is one of the best places to set up. So that's I don't just say it because I'm from Dubai. I say it because I've seen most of my friends who are non-Emirati, just simply because we are 10%, 11% of the, well, less than 15% of the population. The remaining population, the business owners, they all have a story. They all started like you one day, like everyone else. They all, were at a time where they had some different thing that they could add. The market paid them for it, and they grew. And all those people that started, most of those businesses are there today. If they innovated and they stayed up to trend, or their kids are taking care of it, properties did well in Dubai. So I think Dubai as a general thing, it's a very safe place. And I say it's because if I was 19 years old and I wanted to do a business, why would I not do it in Dubai? If I was 20 years old, if I was 25, if now I'm at the stage where other companies, B and C stage companies, they move to Dubai. All the companies in the world, the hedge funds are moving to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I think, the governance is definitely, it's creating, that kind of infrastructure to attract. So why not take advantage? Why not, come to Dubai if you're a content creator and meet all those other amazing people?
Yeah. We see that Dubai, and I mean the UAE in general, not just Dubai, the UAE in general is taking this very important role, right, in kind of shaping the future, especially of the region, but also the world, I would say. Right?
The World Government Summit was here a few days ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Mahmoud, thank you very much. If you guys learned something, let us know. If you guys have some feedback, also let us know. But thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.